easy. They give you the technology, then they get all pissed off when you use it to screw them. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I happen to know for just because we've been friends so long that there was a time where you actually, bought and sold, stag films out of the trunk of your car.
Yeah.
Maybe you can describe some of the ups and downs of actually dealing porn back in the day.
You got caught, you got locked up. It was that simple. Well, my best customers were cops, motor vehicle guys, and diners. And the cost, if you bought it by the case, it was $100 in the case. I think the color, between $8 and $10, and the black and whites were $5. And I was never greedy. I just doubled them up and sold them and stuff. But again, it was if you got caught, you could get screwed, especially in the wrong area, wrong town, or whatever. I was low keyed. I just drove around. Everyone knew everybody, so it was good money. That and bootleg 8-track tapes. That's what got me into the porn anyway, because I was doing that to make money when I was going to college. And all of a sudden, I look up on the shelf, and there's these white boxes, and I'm like, "Fuck! I know what they are. How much you want for them?" So by the time the 8-track thing fizzled out, which was real quick, because I don't know, everybody know what an 8-track was?
Everybody here,
The most horrible fucking system ever known to man.
Yes, my Ford Pinto had an 8-track player in it.
At one time, the major highways were strewn with broken tapes because they sucked.
Yeah, but that was the first main way you could bring music into your car other than the radio. That predated anything else in vehicles.
Yeah.
Although Elvis had a turntable in his car.
Damn, boy,
But,
talk live.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
Pete.
Yeah.
So, 42nd Street?
Yeah.
42nd Street, Pete?
Yeah.
Will you tell us a hooker story?
I know that. Woo! All right, well, I'm not honestly. Oh, yeah, I got a good one. I just noticed thing. This actually involves a Ted Michaels film. I used to hang out with this guy we used to call Gasoline. And picture the S. Clay Wilson checkered demon with an afro, and that was Gasoline. And Gasoline lived in his car. He was this big fat guy who lived in his car. He only got out to piss and eat and get food to bring in. So,
If he was guys like I knew, he always ate at the all-you-could-eat place. Too.
oh yeah, and put shit in his pockets and take it out too. So
I knew a guy named Bo, and he went to an all-you-can-eat chicken place, and they all the time they would tell him, "I'm sorry, but that's all the chicken you can eat."
So on the Ted Michaels thing, they were hyping that thing up, spend the night in the grave thing, and the radio was a big thing back then. He used to really push it on the radio. So I'm hanging out, and all of a sudden he pulls up in his 1968 Pontiac Ballbuster and goes, "Hey, let's go check this shit out." Okay. So we go to Rialto in New York, we park, we go in, we get through Corpse Grinders, we get through Undertaker and his pals. The embalmer was in black and white, and by that time we were like, I think I'm bored with this shit, let's go. So he decides, why don't we go down to the piers and get a blowjob? And I'm like, yeah, what the fuck? So he's cruising around until he finally finds this chick who he basically talked into doing the both of us for $6. Yeah, it's,
You almost want to wear a condom while you're getting a blowjob.
Right. I want to wear a condom while I'm talking about this, but that's beside the So, he gets there and he goes, okay, you got to go outside. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I can't do this with you in the car. I said, well, I'm not going to be in a goddamn backseat. He goes, I'll tell you what, I'll give you weed. Get out of the car. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I get out of the car. This is in the winter, all right? So we're in this area. There's like fucking car wrecks, garbage, all kinds of shit. And I see this big dog roaming around. Then it starts to snow. So I'm like, okay, this dog ain't bothering me. I don't give a shit. All of a sudden I hear him yell, "You're up." Okay. So I get in the car and I go, where you going? He goes, I'm getting in the back seat. I go, I gotta wait outside. He goes, oh no, I won't do nothing. I go, no, you got off, you will break my balls. So, no, you gotta wait outside. You ain't getting the weed. Fuck you then, I don't care, you're waiting outside. So, by now, this chick is almost comatose. She's telling me some story about Greeks and stuff like that. So, finally, I'm like, honey, let's get this over with. Now I just want to get out of here. So she starts going to work. All of a sudden, he's banging on the fucking side of the car. I'm like, what is your problem? He goes, I gotta get in. Now it snow's really coming down. I'm like, fuck you, no. Then he jumps on the hood of the car and his face is against the windshield. I'm like, what is your problem? The dog's after him. The dog's chasing him around the car. But the dog ain't barking. So I'm thinking, the dog smells all the food on him. Because he was a slob. He was, gravy and stuff. That's the only thing I can think of. So finally, I'm like, he's screaming and yelling. I'm like, shit, let him in the back. And he goes, I hate you for this. I'm like, you're the one who started this. The chick passed out in my lap. So he's like, what are you going to do with her?
Throw her
I'm going
to
to
the
take her
car.
home. I'm going to adopt her, put her through school. I'm going to drive her up to the corner and let her out, and we're getting the hell out of here. So that's my first hooker story of the evening.
You
Pete's told me several hooker stories, and I don't think he's repeated one.
You're full of hooker stories. There's plenty more.
Oh, yeah.
On a much more basic note,
Yeah.
do you want to describe an average movie-going outing as far as transportation, how you got there, logistics, when you went down to 42nd Street? Because you were living in Jersey at the time.
Yeah, I drive in Port Authority. I had big balls. I didn't care. And Port Authority was open 24 hours back then, so you could get away with it. It was only like $10. So sometimes I didn't go home. All the time I went over to my little friend's house. You know, those two little working girls that I befriended and hang out with every week.
Tell us about your little friend's house.
I did that the last show.
Tell us again a new story about your little friend's house.
It was on the Lower East Side. It was nice. They didn't do anything out of there. And, you know, I'd go over there and crash on weekends, and I could cook, and I had weed, so they loved me for it. It was a symbiotic relationship. They had something I wanted. I had something they wanted.
How early are we talking? How old were you when you were sneaking off and heading down to...
I was about 20. Well, I told you I started in '68 when I was like 15, drinking in the village.
Correct.
Yeah, then I made that hard left turn outside of Port Authority and looked up and, wow, a smorgasbord of weird shit that I have to get involved in, and that's what
You
happened.
started telling me a story one time about you were 14, 15 and getting drunk for about $1.
Yeah, the Red Witch in the village.
I don't. You didn't finish the story. We got cut off, but maybe you.
They
like
serve
to put it in
underage guys, but you know, you buy a pitcher of beer, like was watered down, it was like $1.50 and had dead bugs in it and shit, but you were happy to get it because you were 14 and you were drinking in a bar.
I used to go to bars where World War II vets hung out.
Yeah, me too.
And I'd listen to shitty old war stories for free shots of Kesslers. That shit actually would rot you from the inside out. But hell, it was free, and I was 15, and I was big and got in a bar, so I know what you're talking about. The same boring ass stories. I caught it one day. It was I shot 27 Japs. The next day it's 56. It's like fuck it. Just keep the cheap liquor.
And the funny part was he was from Germany. You know?
I just was there for the cheap liquor. I'll never forget the one time, if I can interject, I was sitting in that old man bar listening to war stories for free booze, and my father walked in. I'm underage, and he looked at me and turned around, and I walked up to him and I said, hey, buy me a drink, and I won't yell, you're my dad. I swear to God. He bought me a fishbowl. We used to have beer in a fishbowl, and it would look like a damn... almost like a champagne glass, only real big. Bought me a shot and a beer, said, drink them fast and get the fuck out. He was cruising for women. It was like, thanks, Dad. I'm out of here. Honest, Dad. Sorry, I had to interject that.
Pete, you have some good war stories about violent occurrences that you either witnessed or were a part of on 42nd Street.
What do you mean I was a part of this? Might be still...
There's a story you told yesterday involving a street brawl.
Oh,
That was a fairly good story that you may want to repeat for the
parlor
crowd.
brawl?
The massage
Oh
parlor
yeah, that
brawl.
was another fucking magic moment that I almost got killed in. We were hanging out. There was 4 of us, and this guy Danny had a van, and Danny also had 2 Dobermans that went with him everywhere he went with the van. So they decided to go over and pick up some chicks on 8th Avenue. Now, this other guy who went, his name was Big Al Morgan. And I think everybody in their life had a Big Al Morgan. He was the guy in high school that nobody could beat the shit out of. People would drive from miles to try to take him, and nobody could beat him. But me and him had this wonderful relationship, love-hate. We'd be killing each other one day and drinking the next. So he was involved in one other guy. So we're driving down 8th Avenue. Now, if you passed 42nd Street, it was like hooker heaven on one side. And there was these like offices converted into these cheap little motels. So as luck would have it, we found a parking space right on that block. So the only chicks that were working were these black streetwalkers. So everybody paired off. Now we're going up this little flight of stairs, and he's at the top. We hit the top of the stairs. This big pimp comes out of a room and bumps into him. And the first thing went through my mind is, this is not going to be